Hi, you guys. Welcome back. This is Lost Arts Radio, and this is the Safe Stream version, which most of you know by now is talking about what we can to not get kicked off the channel, or the platform, I should say. And I've been getting some comments occasionally saying, why do we have to keep doing sarcasm all the time? And I think it should be pretty obvious. But at the same time, I can see how maybe some people are getting tired of it. So I thought, what can I talk about where this wouldn't be the last show that we do on this major platform? I'm trying not to lose the subscribers that we do have before they figure out to go over to lostartsradio.com and see all the non-censoring platforms that we are all on already. Some are audio, some are video, some are both. The video ones are both, obviously. So I thought, all right, I'll try it. And I also got some feedback from bots. I think they're bots. They said, we don't understand when you use sarcasm. Would you please not do that? And I don't think humans would say that, but, I'm just guessing. So anyway, I thought, what can I talk about? And it brought me back to the point of this radio project that we started, 6 or 7 years ago. It's not supposed to be just kind of interesting, momentary entertainment or something like that. It's our effort to try to contribute to a better future for the world, so it doesn't have to self-destruct on the direction that it's being led in right now. So we have this issue, the reason that we're on the air at all, that we're in the middle of a project to destroy humanity and the rest of life on the planet, which I don't think is a very good plan. So what can I talk about without getting thrown out? And with the limited knowledge of what AI is doing, I thought, all right, without getting suddenly multiple strikes and disappearing, maybe it's safe to talk about something important that is not allowing, that is allowing the world to be destroyed, I should say. And it's not yet on the list of keywords that we're not allowed to say, as far as I know. And what I'm talking about is blind trust of authority in general, that we've been trained to have. Blind trust of agencies, authorities, officials of different kinds. And I scribbled down a couple of notes about that to share with you. And then if you want to get into the main show, go to lostartsradio.com, and there are links below the video on this show that tell you where to go. But talking about blind trust, which, it's just the opposite of real science and really the opposite of anything honest. It's self-programmed limitation and invites the kind of scams that are the most dangerous to humanity right now. Like the ones we're living under at the moment. And I can't obviously specify what they are. I think you know what they are if you're listening to this show. You can just imagine, without being specific, if there was some problem, a worldwide problem that threatened the survival of humans and all the other life forms on the planet, then how would a programmed person brought up with television and what I think they call it the educational system, where you go to be indoctrinated and brainwashed and learn obedience and blind trust and valuable skills like that, how to work in a cubicle for the rest of your life, and how to never question authority. If you've grown up in that and you're programmed as a result, how do you react to the announcement of a worldwide problem, I'll say? You react with fear. That's what you're trained to do. And you look for an authority to save you and somebody to obey so that you can get saved. I think that's what we're trained to do from very early childhood. And if the authority is legitimate that you trust, then it's going to spread empowerment and solutions that benefit everyone, and it's going to uphold freedom. And that's why the United States is so targeted right now, and why it's so relevant to the fate of the rest of the world, is because I don't know of any other country that in its founding documents and the basics of the documents like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, it's about individual freedom being the job of the government. The job of the government is to protect individual freedom, and that never changes. And they call the freedoms and rights unalienable. That means government doesn't even have the option to remove them. They can't make a law taking away your unalienable rights, also known as your natural rights. They can't do it. They can't say, oh, it's an emergency, so you can't go out of your house. It's an emergency, so we have to check what you're carrying and your papers when you're walking around, what medical treatments you've had or not had. They can't ever do that. And that was the amazing, at least in theory, foundation of the United States when it started as a country. And what was incredible is that those rights, according to the founders of America, were not just for Americans, they're for everybody. No, it doesn't mean that you can just march illegally into another country and get welfare. That's not what was intended. It means that whatever country you live in, anywhere in the world, your unalienable natural rights are exactly the same. And no government can legitimately take them away. And now the world rulers, which are not confined to any one country, they have no loyalty to any particular country. They're globalist, they're world rulers. They figure we've been educated in their system long enough, so we forgot. We don't know about unalienable rights. We don't know to check everything ourselves and not just blindly obey and believe. So they said, oh, it's an emergency, so you don't have your rights anymore. We're really sorry, and we'll give them back as fast as we can, we promise. That can never happen in a country based on freedom. Even if it was a problem where everybody was falling over dead and it was killing 95% of the people, which is not exactly what's going on right now, although something similar is being arranged for the near future, and I have to be careful about what I say about that. But even if it was a real situation like that where everybody was dying, they couldn't take away your unalienable rights. Even then, almost all Americans forgot, and people in the rest of the world forgot too. Unalienable means forget the emergency thing. They're just unalienable. It's not, if there's a certain percentage, a lot of the really well-meaning, smart commentators and scientists and doctors say, well, you can't take away rights in an emergency for the current problem because there's not enough people dying. That's irrelevant. That's a bogus argument. Completely beside the point. 98% of the people could be dying. You still can't take away people's rights. And I have to be really careful getting into this. The authorities telling you that you don't have your rights because we're the experts and it's too dangerous for you to have rights anymore. They can't exist in a country like America or any country that is based on individual freedom, not collective good, but individual freedom within the bounds that you get your individual freedom to live however you want, as long as you respect everybody else's rights and freedoms too. So legitimate freedom does not include stealing somebody else's things, even through the proxy of government. And it doesn't include polluting the environment so nobody can breathe. It doesn't include the freedom to start companies like Monsanto that are poisoning the whole genetic blueprint of the planet. That's not legitimate freedom. But respectfully living however you want, thinking whatever you want, having whatever religion you want or no religion, or believing that whatever you want, that is legitimate freedom. And you decide your own health issues, you decide what goes into your body. Those are obvious parts of real freedom. So if you have a programmed population that's been taught for a long time, obey authority, never question anything, just obey orders, like some famous people did during World War II before the Nuremberg trials. Then when you get told, oh, it's an emergency and we have to take your rights away because we're experts, you say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And it is sir and ma'am, because these foolish people who thought that women would be better rulers than men haven't looked around, or they have an agenda, because the women have now shown in the realm of political positions that they can be just as horrible as men. So we have achieved equality there. Anyway, the program people would just say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever you want us to do. The Milgram experiment proved we would kill each other under orders, do anything. That's a sign of complete hypnosis and deep programming. What does the non-programmed person do when you announce that their rights are gone because it's an emergency? Or a person who's either not been programmed or who breaks out of the programming that they have, which anyone can do if you understand it and want to do it. They say, oh, really? That's an interesting emergency you've got there. Let's see what it is. And by the way, even if it's real, which I'm not going to just believe, you can't take my rights away. Doesn't work. And it would never fly. So with a non-brainwashed population, the global problem that we're talking about would be a dud. It would never happen. It would never take hold, because people would say, no, I don't think so. Thanks for the offer of the problem, but we're not buying it. Because if the authority, first of all, even if the authority is legitimate, it can't declare an emergency that justifies taking away your rights, no matter what. The numbers don't mean anything with that. And number two, if the authority is legitimate, it's not going to want to take away your rights anyway. It's going to be protecting your freedom. That's why it's there, as long as you're respectful of others, as we said. So what we've got now is authority that's corrupt, and it's obeying orders from the level above that and the level above that and the level above that. Every level of authority is obeying bosses above it, leading up to the very top small number of individuals and families that are giving the orders to the world, and they're obeying their orders coming from non-human levels, which is another story. People think that that's fantasy, and you find out eventually it's not. So if a person's not programmed and some world problem is declared, and along with the loss of all rights, then the reaction is not fear. And they'd want to know what's the cause and how do we remove it. And as far as taking away the rights in an emergency, forget it, because they're not, the rights don't come from the authority. They come from the real authority. So instead of leading society into ruin, it would lead to recovery and health. And that can still happen, even in the real situation. Because what happens is it spotlights where the problem came from, global ruler criminals, like the bioweapons labs that are still operating illegally in the U.S. since 1990. And look up Francis Boyle's talks about explaining the details on that. We posted a lot of things like that on lostartsradio.com. And anybody that was awake and followed the cause of the so-called declared world problem that required an emergency to take away your rights, it would lead back eventually, that investigation, to a network of satanic criminal cartels who are involved in systematically destroying the earth. It's way above the money level. It's not originating in the banks or anybody just looking for profit. You don't destroy all of the biosphere if you're after profit. That doesn't follow logically. So bringing them into the light makes it possible for them to be removed. But to do that, it requires hypnotized, terrified populations, like most of us right now, to break out of that, wake up. And the question is, how can a person who wants recovery get deprogrammed and become part of the solution instead of what's happening now, and then spread that awakening to other people? And what I would suggest is that needs to happen really quickly. And if you want to help with that, it has to start individually inside each one of us. We have to break our own programming instead of staying programmed and try to convince somebody else to break out of their hypnosis. That's a big mistake. And it just leads to fighting, and it's not going to do anything good in time. But if you're brave enough to really break your own programming, then things start to happen because other people are affected and they're scattered and they're running around scared. And if they encounter somebody like you who breaks the programming and dumps fear and learns how to work with mind to get impervious to further programs, now you can have a major hand in bringing the world back to normal if you are brave enough to do that. So that's my suggestion. Do it in your own way, however you want, but it requires looking at yourself. You know, most of us are wrapped up in critique of everybody else and in situation and world events, and it's good to be aware of those for strategic purposes. But your real work is not arguing with other people about what they're doing. It's changing your state, your inner state. And that's not just some escapist meditation philosophy or something like that. It's real. It's a forgotten power center, and it's waiting to see if we are up to discovering it and using it. I looked at a lot of solutions, potential solutions to where the world is going right now, and I think that's an essential element, maybe the main key. So that's why we started Planetary Healing Club. That's what that's about. And any of us that are willing to work on that, it's much harder to work on yourself than just try to reform other people, but it's much more productive. And you don't need us. You don't need anybody else to do it. You could do it yourself. So however you want to pursue that, I just suggest considering to start right away. Or if you're already doing it, ramp up your intention and your focus, because this is a consciousness test for humanity. It's not go out and fight the bad guys, although you may have to do that in self-defense, but that's not the primary key. It's what are you willing to do to become aware of the patterns that are running around your mind as a result of programming, and to learn how to get rid of them and find out who you are and then put it into action. So that's my attempt at a non-sarcastic message. I hope you didn't mind too much. We may go back to sarcasm. We're just trying to hold on to the ability to stay in contact with current followers and listeners and subscribers. And it does help the channel to have stability if you subscribe to it and put down to get notices and things like that. But mainly, the purpose of this is watching what's going on in the outside world and realizing that we don't have unlimited time to turn it around, but you're carrying the ability to do that, and it has to break out of the programming, and that's possible. That's the message anyway. So see what you think, and if you agree with it, stop at some point and make a plan how you're going to change that. Change it in yourself. You're a microcosm of the bigger picture and have immense power and effect on it. It's not obvious, but I think it's clearly true. So we have work to do. That's the message, and I hope you can relate to it. And I hope it also didn't go too far over the line so that we can still be here next week. Again, we got work to do. So I hope that that makes sense to you. And I really appreciate you as the solution to the world issues, because I think you are. And don't believe it when they say you're inconsequential. The opposite is true. Anyway, I hope you have a good week. Remember, we have a Sunday show tomorrow that's a guest show, and we have some highly unacceptable guests on there that I won't mention right now, but there's a great show tomorrow, and I hope that you're there with me to enjoy the discussion. We're the solution. We just have to wake up and do our work, okay? So thanks for being here. I really appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Have a good week.